to us what libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to another episode of Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Yes, the brand is strong. I am still drinking my coffee. I survive on coffee. I always say I'm joking. I survive on caffeine and protein. That's how I can survive doing as much of the stuff that we do. I know, guys, I know you are concerned about the presidential election. I got it, and it does matter. But you know what also matters? Everybody else running. Down ticket matters. People who are running locally, federal, state, local, all of these matter. And if you care about that, then we have to break through this media blockade. We get this blackout that we often have to deal with. So please like, comment, and share. Let people know that this is happening. Let them know that we are on and this matters. And the more you like, comment, and share, guess what? All of a sudden, those cool algorithms, see what a tech guy I am? Those cool algorithms are going to pop up and make everything better for all of us. So please do that, guys. It's important. Today, I have an excellent guest, someone who is trying to make some waves, make some changes at the federal level, someone who is running for Congress in Texas. Elliott Scheirman, how are you, sir?
Good afternoon, Larry. How are you doing? Good. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. No, glad to have you on. Look, Texas, for some people, you know, Texas is what people don't understand, I'm sure you know, is not a monolith, right? Texas is a diverse state, more diverse than people would think. There's a lot of stuff going on in Texas, and I think libertarians may have a shot there. I mean, am I wrong?
No, not at all. In fact, Texas has a population of over 26 million people. Houston is the largest city in the state, fourth largest in the country, and it's one of the most diverse centers there are in the entire country. Even just as a casual visitor, you can tell that from our amazing offering of different foods and culture.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that you're trying to step up and make this happen in a state that a lot of people think is only going to be red, but there's blue and there's gold there, so I'm happy. But with that in mind, I mean, there's many ways you could have chosen to make impact. But you chose Congress and you chose now. Why Congress? Why now?
Excellent question. Actually, the incumbent I'm running against really inspired me to run. He's a very infamous congressman with an eye patch, and he supports red flag laws, which is something that his conservative base really gets upset about. So I saw that as an opportunity to soften him up, maybe offer his supporters an actual principled candidate who's not going to violate their rights. And as far as why now, I'm tired of just hoping good candidates are going to step up that I can support. So I decided to set an example and lead the way.
Man, I cannot tell you how much I love that answer. The idea that you've decided that you're going to set the example and hope others follow. I tried that myself. It doesn't always work, but I definitely tried that myself. I try to be the guy or the person who's out there so that other people can look and go, you know what? Let me give that a shot too, right? Let me give that a shot. Let me stop just, you know, some people don't know this, but I have my degree actually is in anthropology. I know, kind of weird, but yes, but it's in anthropology. And one of the things we talk about in that is the idea, the concept socially of a peasant mentality. The mentality that a peasant has, I don't mean an actual peasant, but I mean the concept of it. It's called peasant mentality. Is where someone just thinks, if only there was a good king. That's it. They make no attempt to change their environment. They make no attempt to make things better. They just hope for one day there'll be a good king. And when the good king comes, we'll have good stuff because he'll be a benevolent dictator. Yay. And until then, we just have to suffer until it happens. And I think people like you are saying, No, we can make the change. And I love that. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
My pleasure. Be the change you want to see is a succinct way to put that.
Absolutely. Yes. So obviously there's so many issues we could talk about. I mean, we could be here for the next 6 hours. I don't want to kill ourselves on that. Are there a couple of issues that for you kind of float to the top, right? Some that are really more important at the moment or more central to your campaign?
Well, the number one thing that's on everybody's mind right now is the economy and getting it back on track. Right now, the entire country has witnessed the government expand more power over their lives than it has in decades. And this is an opportunity for libertarians to stand up and say, no, we need to be responsible, but we also need to be free to make the right decisions for ourselves and our families.
Right.
So getting the economy back on track, number one. Number two, we have this embarrassment of a policy that cages children along the border here in my state especially, and that is just horrifically immoral. And that's something that I think that most people, when you put a child in a cage in front of them, they will know in their hearts that's wrong. And that's somewhere that we can reach out. As I mentioned before.
I love that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just saying I'm yes.
As I mentioned before, the president incumbent in this particular race in Texas 2 supports red flag laws. That allows the government to confiscate your property without any crime having been committed, without any charges being placed against you. That's such a violation of both your property rights and your Second Amendment rights that it's just outrageous.
I love that because that actually hits 2 points, right? It's 2A and property rights. It's both. Exactly.
Another thing that I think attracts to voters who aren't typically on the right is that I support full equality for the LGBT community, and including adding as a protected status with the EEOC, gender identity and sexual orientation. So this isn't adding any new laws. This is just adding people who are currently omitted from those protections.
Yeah, I think a lot of Republicans, while they may be good on 2A in theory, most of them actually aren't good on 2A. It's rhetoric, but when it comes down to it, they actually aren't that good on it. But the rhetoric tends to be okay as a general rule. Their governing is terrible, and their rhetoric and their governing for people who are of any discriminated class is terrible. It's bad rhetoric and bad governing. I completely agree. Wow. So let me go down the economy piece here, right? Because without question, if you look at the economy now, a lot of people are afraid, and I'm in New York City. So I have a bubble within my own world, right? And in my bubble, I have a lot of people who are saying, if you talk about the economy, it's because you hate people and you want us to die and all you care about is your 401k. Do you have that same in your district or is that not that way?
Not at all. In fact, in my district, especially Harris County, which is the county that Houston's in general, people are clamoring to get back to work. They don't want to rely on checks from the government. They want to get back to work. They want their lives to get back to normal. Obviously, with the presence of a pandemic, you've got people's legitimate concerns about health and
Sure.
risking the lives of others. And I think the solution to that is for us as a society to figure out responsible ways to not spread, to not spread the virus, but to still be able to go along with the necessary functions of our jobs. Now, one thing that I really strongly take objection to is that the government dictates which jobs are necessary.
Yes.
That's just completely ridiculous. Anything that puts food on their kids' table is a necessary job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. 100%. That I think of all the things that have driven me crazy, many of them have. But the one at its core is that we as Americans would allow the government to decide whether or not we're essential. I mean, when did that be okay? You would think with us as Americans being so unhappy with the government deciding, picking winners and losers, making issues when it comes to gender, race, ethnic background, all these issues, this is just as arbitrary, right? Oh, you're a dry cleaner, so you don't matter, but you're a laundromat, so you do? I don't understand how that works. I feel horrible that we accepted that.
I think that any attempt to understand government decisions as rational is just a lost cause. So
I think you're right. There. Touche. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely. I agree with that. So what do we do now? Right. Say you win this thing. You're coming January. You're getting sworn in. I love that. what do we do?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of important legislation that can happen day one. One thing that I have really committed to is just overturning any sort of unconstitutional violation of people's First Amendment rights, which the local governors have done. If you tell someone that they cannot operate their business, they can't go out and offer a service, you're violating the right to peaceably assemble.
Right.
So right there, right now, enforce the Constitution. Let people use their freedom to do what they want.
I love that. I love that. So let me move to your next one, immigration. Immigration's one of the most controversial ones of them all, right? It's really controversial. With COVID too, also makes it more controversial in different ways. So, but you're a border state. So, I mean, you're feeling it a lot more. I mean, I feel it in New York. Obviously, they fly into us, but they just literally cross the border to come into your state. It's kind of controversial. How do you make the immigration? Well, what's your stance? And then how do you make that work in your district?
Well, my stance is always to side with private property ownership and allow people to use their private property however they want. If there's a business owner here in Texas who wants to hire an immigrant, the government has no right to say they can't do that. If there's a person who wants to rent an apartment or a house or sell a house to an immigrant and their family, who is the government to say they can't move here and buy that? When you think about it, immigration is just moving, and it should be something that libertarians rally behind as an inherent right. I understand that a lot of people object to issues where they think that immigrants are going to be, drains on the welfare system. But
Sure.
Immigrants aren't taking your money in that case. The government is taking your money. So blaming immigrants for someone else, with their hand in your pocketbook is really just it's a scapegoat. So what matters most?
Change the government policies so that the immigrant can't put their hand in your pocket. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the immigrant's hand isn't in your pocket. The government's is.
Okay, gotcha.
The immigrant,
okay. So it's the wrong hand.
Wrong hand. You're slapping the wrong hand.
Okay.
Most people are just moving here to try to make a better life for their families, and that's the American dream. And what we have now, it all boils down to private property ownership for me. If I'm a business owner and I want to hire an immigrant, the government is not an interested party in that arrangement, and they shouldn't get a say to prohibit that.
I assume that your Republican counterpart. By the way, is there a Democrat in the race in your case?
There is. She's the former campaign manager for the Beto campaign, if that gives you any indication of what her politics are like.
Gotcha. So she's coming for our guns. I got you.
Yeah, we got two anti-gun main party establishment candidates running here, and I'm the only one who's standing up for anybody's rights.
I now understand exactly why you went 2A. Makes total sense. I got it. That's why it's one of the top three. I'm with you. So is the Democrat close to you on immigration? Not close to you on immigration? Sometimes Democrats are good on immigration. Depends on the Democrat. She is
actually an immigrant herself. I don't believe she favors aggressive policies like the Republicans do. However, she's still going to be one of those ask permission from the government type of people. Whereas I think I don't have to call up the state of Texas, or if someone living in Louisiana wants to move here, they don't have to file forms to move here. They just take their new job, buy their new place, and move over with their family, and then they get registered with everything plugged in that they need after the fact.
Got it. Okay. So let me go to the 2A piece.
Sure.
I like the fact that both of your opponents are anti-2A. I had the same situation, believe it or not. I had the same situation in New York when I ran for governor. My Republican my Republican opponent was mute. They said nothing on 2A at all. His lieutenant governor literally said, "Red flag laws don't go far enough." That was the Republican. The Democrats in my state are all about just take the guns, put them all in jail, take the guns. They would love Beto. They're like, yes, that's the Democrats in my state. So I had, two sides completely against 2A. So I kind of get where you're going. But even with that, I got to tell you, my struggle, and maybe not yours, but mine was Republicans and Democrat gun owners still went in droves back to their old ways. Democratic gun owners, there are many Democrat gun owners in New York State, not as many as Republican, but there are many. As a general rule, they still voted Democrat. Republicans, as a general rule, still voted Republican, even though it was obvious that both candidates were anti-2A. There's a give or take somewhere between 4 and 6 million gun owners in New York State. And I got 100,000 votes. So I missed a whole lot of them.
Well, that's why it's important to have a really balanced platform. And you can't expect everybody to be a single issue voter, even if it is something that completely affects them. That's why I like to offer that when I'm talking to people from the right or the left, or just independents in general, I like to mention that I have a really well-rounded platform, and there's something in there for everybody. And there's one aspect to my platform that my opponents don't have, and that's they can support the positions I have, and it's all moral. It's all based on reducing harm to others. It's all based on empowering individuals.
All based on reducing harm to others. Huh. I like that. I haven't heard a libertarian have that type of platform. I think the closest one I heard was actually Ricky Harrington out of Arkansas. He mentioned the idea of talking about our humanity. That was a big issue he brought up. But most libertarians don't go that route. That's almost an emotional way of, I guess, selling libertarian ideals. I like that idea. Do you discuss it like that? Do you say it's the idea of reducing harm?
Absolutely. This campaign is about the issues. It's about seeing the harm that government causes people and really understanding that what the root causes of that are. Anytime someone, like you mentioned earlier in your intro video, anytime someone says there ought to be a law, there's the implication that there's going to be force used to enact it. When you have laws against victimless activities, you're just introducing harm to people who weren't doing harm to others.
Nice.
So it's a really good way to boil it down. People are naturally empathetic, and when you can help them understand that liberty is perfectly aligned with the ability to care about others, then we also tend to get away from that stereotype that libertarians are just selfish people, because I'm absolutely not. I'm a libertarian because I care about others and because I can't stand seeing other people getting harmed as a result of destructive government policies.
I love that. So do you have some kind of cool slogan yet, like a build that wall or Medicaid for all, or do you have a cool slogan yet?
Our state actually has a slogan that I like a lot. It's build bridges, not walls. But my personal campaign slogan is mostly just peace, equality, prosperity, and liberty for all.
There we go. No, we actually have a candidate here in New York, Jake, and he talks about bridge to unity. I think that's what he says, bridge to unity. So you know what? That happens too. I like it. It all seems to work. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. So I guess I have to go to another piece, which I'm sure you've heard 1,000 times. How are you going to make impact? I mean, COVID has changed how people think. It's changed how people act. This type of interaction is becoming more and more normalized. I mean, how do we make impact here?
So it's really interesting. I got nominated on March 14th at my county party's convention. That was the last time I was in the same room with more than 5 people since then, and it's nearing June now. So my plan to hit the ground running once I received that nomination, and again, that was I won that nomination over 2 really great other libertarian candidates. So this wasn't just a walk-in coordination. You know, I had to sell my case to my county, who showed up and supported me. But I was ready to hit the ground running, with block walking, recruiting volunteers to, go out and spread out my literature, just let people know, hey, there's someone who cares about your rights running. And all of that was just completely put to a halt.
Yeah.
And so I've been focusing in the meantime on Facebook marketing, reaching out to people like that, email, direct email contact. The absolute best way to reach people right now is to have people who agree with what you're saying, liking your content, sharing it.
Yes.
Obviously, donations helped. I haven't asked for any over the last 2 months, really. I'm going
to ask right now for you. Head on down to ShermanForCongress.com. It's at the bottom of this feed. Also, it's actually in the notes also. Look, if you are in Texas and you want someone who is going to make some impact, then do us all a favor. Throw him a couple of bucks. Throw Elliott a couple of bucks. Can you give him 10, 20, 100 bucks? Can you do that? Do that now. If you're in his district, oh my God, please do that right now, right? Go there now. Give him a couple of bucks. How else is he going to pay for these Facebook ads? How else is he going to pay for the door hangers he's going to have to put up? How else is he going to pay for the signs he's going to have to be waving on the streets, or the honkathons he's going to have to do, or whatever those things are that's going to work best in his district? Remember, his district has got about 700,000 people in it. That's a lot of people in district. How many does yours have exactly?
It's about that. On Facebook, it says there are about 430,000 active Facebook users. So that's a huge chunk that we can reach electronically.
There we go. Look about how many people that we can actually deal with right here. So if you can amount, but look, I get it. Some people, I get it. COVID has changed our lifestyles. If you don't have the cash, no worries. You don't have to give them cash. If you can, please do. If you can't, no worries. You can still like, share, and comment all his stuff. You hear me talk about it all the time. I push it constantly because Elliott's right. If you like and you share and you comment, it all grows. So please like his stuff, share and comment. It's free and it helps him to grow and lets other people see it. And if you're in his district or near, guess what? Go to his website, sign up to be a volunteer. He needs people to be social media warriors. He needs people to knock on doors when that time comes. He needs people to wave signs. He needs bodies too. So if you can give him money, great. If you can't, give him some time. It matters. Thank you. I'm sorry, I had to pitch for you, Scheirman.
Oh, that's great. One more thing I'd like to add for the volunteer aspect, especially if money's difficult to offer right now. I'm doing regular volunteering days at the Houston Food Bank. So if you show up and help out with that, I've got a Sherman for Congress shirt for you that I'll give you.
Nice.
And just make sure that you bring a mask because they're pretty stringent about their safety concerns. So what we're doing there is we're packing up food for families who have lost their income, lost their job, and they still have kids to feed. We're helping supplement other local charities in terms of their outreach. Houston Food Bank has a really great distribution network, and I love volunteering there, and I'd love to have other local Houstonians who can make it come show up and help me out.
So you're actually doing something where you're encouraging and supporting the local communities to step up.
Of course, volunteer is the way to do it.
Absolutely, and I keep saying, what I hear often, people often will say, Larry, how are you going to get people to feel comfortable when you begin to remove government? And I say the same thing always. When you add government, you by default remove community. That's how it works. So if you're going to remove government, you got to start adding community.
Exactly.
Right? Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. If you're not willing to step up and take care of others, then you might as well be asking for the government to do it for you.
Absolutely. I think that's what we often do, sadly. Yes, absolutely. So, all right. So you've told me how you can make impact. I love what you're doing. I love the way you're thinking. I have another worry, and that is, how do we get around the fear? There's a lot of people who are afraid for a multitude of reasons, right? One of them is, oh my God, COVID's going to kill me, right? Obviously, people are afraid of that. But also, I'm afraid that the left's going to take over or the right's going to take over. They're going to take over. Oh, my God. So if I lean right, I got to vote Republican. If I lean left, I got to vote Democrat. How do we get around that fear in your district?
Well, luckily, the incumbent here in my district has made it really easy to point out that there's not a whole lot of difference between the left and the right. They get in office. They vote on bills that violate your rights. This particular incumbent, he co-sponsored $6 trillion in deficit spending. What kind of Republican can, hold their head up and say that they market themselves as fiscally conservative, and then they just go and do that? There's absolutely no difference between the left and the right. So once you realize that, you see, okay, these people are irresponsible with our money. They're violating our rights. If the left wins, that's going to happen. If the right wins, that's going to happen. Why don't I start supporting an actual solution instead of just perpetuating this nonsense?
Wow, that's a good way of putting it. Do you think that the person in your district is in a mental position to hear that, or have they been? And I'm asking because, again, I live in my state. I have a state, and I mean this not to insult the people, but I'm just being forward. I have a lot of people in my state who basically have Stockholm syndrome. Mm-hmm. They simply love their jailers. They love their jailers. Is your district open to hearing that message, or are you going to have to break through some of that Stockholm syndrome also, or no?
Yeah, and you do have to break in. And people have their own habits that they, that they fall into, where okay, I have to vote for a Republican because they care about my gun rights. They care about lowering taxes and stuff. And when you understand that that's what matters to a person, you connect to them and you say, well, let's look at their track record, not what their campaign slogan was. And then you point out, okay, well, this is the harm they've done. This is exactly the opposite of what you want. Why are you still supporting them? And then they'll say, well, the other guy would be worse. So you say that, okay, the other guy is worse. Don't vote for them. Vote for someone who is better.
Yes. Yes.
If you have people, who are maybe on the left who are concerned that their rights won't be respected when you have a Republican in charge of something, or they want more government assistance for something. Right now, we have the best example in the world. Look at the president. It's when you say, I want the government to help me out with something, just imagine Donald Trump's face as being the person who's deciding how things will be. And it's crazy how effective that can be if you frame it properly.
I like that. That's good. So this seems to be rocking and rolling. So let me go to the next piece. I know you're going to run to win.
Absolutely.
But your incumbent, he's pretty popular. I mean, he goes on TV. He's pretty popular. So it's going to be tough, right? We know it's going to be tough. If you're unable to win, have you decided, and it's okay if you haven't, but have you decided what's a secondary win, right? What's a consolation prize? When I ran in New York, it was easy for me, right? If I don't win, I still get ballot access. Easy for me. How about for you?
Ballot access, it's great. It's important that you mention that. That's something that libertarians constantly have to fight against. You have Republicans and Democrats working together to just keep us off the ballot so that we aren't even a choice for people. And that's so cruel. And when you want to reduce voter choice, that's saying we have an inferior product that we're offering and we don't want you to see what's better. So what's winning to me if I don't physically win the election? Winning to me is maybe getting the incumbent to publicly decry his anti-gun stance, getting him to apologize for the $6 trillion in debt that he put on the next generation. This national debt is going to be borne by people who don't exist yet.
Yes, I know.
They don't exist yet, and yet they're already in debt. That is so completely wrong. So we need to hold our leaders accountable. I'm not going anywhere. I plan on absolutely, I have to win this election. I'm the only moral choice on the ballot.
I like that. I'm the only moral choice on the ballot. I like that. Very good. Very good. So, all right. So if you get one of them, he says, you know what? My 2A stance isn't good enough. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to adjust it. He doesn't give you any credit, obviously, but he just does it, right? He's not going to say it's because of you. He's going to say he's had an epiphany. That's what he's going to say, right? And when he says that, is that a win for you?
I'd say that's certainly a win for liberty. I'm not running for any personal achievement. I'm running because I care about people and I care about their rights. So if my impact is that people's rights are being more respected, then absolutely that's a win.
All right. One last question, which everyone always wants to know about, and that is, what's your view on the government's response for the COVID-19 crisis?
I think that there was a lot of, I don't know, the timeline's kind of worth tracking. Initially, our leadership said it wasn't going to be a big deal. It's just remote areas of the world. Then suddenly they were telling us not to wear masks. Then they were telling us to wear masks, which were coincidentally sold out at that point. And then they shut down the country, and state by state, city by city, there were all sorts of different shutdowns where people were literally just held to their homes as hostages, essentially. No laws were passed, orders were issued. My response to that is, you can't just issue orders over people. The government are a collection of people who are public servants. They're supposed to be doing what they can to serve us and protect our rights, not violate them and treat us like tax cattle.
Yes.
So this whole debacle with all of this deficit spending to keep people in their homes and not being productive, not allowing these businesses to shutter, it's just wrong. We need to allow Americans to pick up the pieces of this and rebuild the economy. Another important aspect that I have to that is I'm a strong supporter of legalization of marijuana, which would bring 60,000 jobs to Texas alone, with an estimated $3 billion in Texas revenue. I'm not talking about.
Bring them to New York first.
Well, I'm talking about revenue for Texas that will help rebuild that economy, help get things going. Not to mention, that's a recession-proof industry.
Absolutely.
What we need to do is offer solutions, not blame.
Absolutely. So do you want to walk down cannabis since you brought that up? Is that part?
Yeah, let's talk cannabis.
Let's talk cannabis. So tell me, a lot of people in the party fight over the difference between decriminalization and legalization. Where do you stand, or do you stand on any of those issues?
I actually want to add another word to that. I'm for decriminalization, legalization, and deregulation. I think that marijuana should be treated like tomato plants. You should be able to buy them in the store if you want. You should be able to grow them if you want. You should be able to use it however you want. Obviously, consenting adults is kind of the asterisk on that. But essentially, the government should
regulate like tomatoes.
Exactly. The government shouldn't have anything to do with it. So I actually really like the Portugal model, where they decriminalized all drugs, not just marijuana, and they started treating addiction like a medical issue as opposed to a criminal one. Not only did their cost of enforcement drop like a rock because they rediverted a fraction of those funds into treatment facilities, but their use rates went down, their crime went down, their incarceration went down. There's nothing but benefits when you look at this. The only interest of keeping this failed war on drugs going is for, maybe alcohol distributors or pharmaceutical companies who want their opioids in a pill to be what people can buy instead of, something much more cost effective.
So at the federal level, does that mean just taking all drugs off of the schedules? Is just ending that? Is that what that is?
That would solve it overnight. Like the DEA would have no reason to exist.
True. Yeah.
And the mass incarceration problem that plagues every state in this country would solve. I also, as an addendum to that, I would pardon all nonviolent offenders who are currently, serving time right now, as well as expunging their records for anything related to nonviolent offenses.
Okay, no, I like that. So that's clear. Mm-hmm. That's good. So the cannabis issue for you at a federal level is kind of just getting it off the schedule and letting Texas decide how to make it. And you would rather, in your world, regulate like tomatoes.
Exactly.
I love it. That's awesome. All right. Anything else you want to cover before you wrap it up?
I really appreciate everyone's time today. And if you are interested in those local volunteer opportunities, please reach out. I do have a link on my website, ScheirmanForCongress.com. That's spelled SCHEIRMAN, for spelled out FOR, and then Congress.com. You'll see a volunteer button. Also, it's right next to a donate button. So if you can help with that, I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps keep the lights on, so to speak. And really appreciate everyone's time today.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for listening, paying attention. Remember, it isn't just about the presidential election. It is, but it's also about everybody else who's running. It's about people across this country who are trying to make impact, who are trying to make change in the local communities. We have to make sure we get change everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.